Alright, so originally I was going to discuss about some theories for Xenoblade 3, but as of today, a new trailer was revealed giving us new information about Xenoblade 3. And I have professionally looked over each and every frame of this game to discuss it with you guys. So let's get started. We first start off in a fight with a new character, being a female, and she seems to be in some sort of controlled state, with her right eye glowing. And this is important, so I'll explain about it later. In the flashing scene with her vision being tampered with, we see that humans are shaded in black with red eyes, giving us a hint that she might be controlled or something similar. Another interesting note is that Napon are not changed for some reason. But before we go further into this video, to answer your question, yes, Napon will be playable in this game. I'll talk about that more later. But these altered versions of humans might be a manipulation tactic that makes killing people easier, as we know that in this game there's a huge war going on. But let's keep going forward because there's a lot we need to talk about. So the name Ouroboros is heard a lot in this game, but I'll talk about that more later. And now this new character comes in with his left eye glowing. This states that he might have a connection with the previously shown villain, but we'll talk about connections later. They both seem to have some sort of lingering evil inside of them. So, small detail, but he seems to have ether flowing through him, which is kind of interesting. We might know a little more about the timeline to this game, from the phrase,
"Even though we're being chased by both nations at once."
My prediction is Mio and Noah meet sometime before the war, as they are friends and are both Offseers, shown in the first trailer. Then they get to war, but are on opposite sides. In this scene, I would guess it would be early middle game because they are all together and fighting for something bigger. At some point in between the war and their reunion, they found out something that changed the fate of war for them, so they decided to team up. Maybe this information was passed down by Van Damme, as he is the one in the first trailer that says that they aren't enemies. Spoilers for Xenoblade 2. So Van Damme obviously can't be Van Damme, and we know that because he died in the second game. So why is he here? This is the one thing that still stumps me. There's no way he should still be alive, unless a possibility of time travel or a multiverse affair are in this game, which we all know is possible as both the worlds of Xenoblade 1 and Xenoblade 2 are colliding. But this is still unconfirmed as of now. But still, he seems to know a lot of things that others don't. So I'm guessing he's going to have a major role in the war. Okay, now this is the important stuff, the gameplay. First thing I notice is on the left, 6 characters. Holy crap, that's a ton. More than we have ever seen in any Xenoblade game. On top of that, Nintendo's Twitter confirmed that you are allowed to have a maximum of 7 characters in a fight. Which doesn't make sense, but I'll explain why in a little. Well, first of all, I want to congratulate Nintendo and Monolith Soft, as the UI in this game looks incredible. I know that Xenoblade games get a lot of hate for their UI being overcomplicated, and I guess in some portions that is true, but honestly I believe that this is the best looking UI that any of the Xenoblade games I've had so far. But let's try to break down everything we see, starting with the characters. As I said, 6 characters here, but a total possible of 7. Each character has 3 bars. What each means is still a question, but my guess would be that the blue bars are health, green are connection, and purple could possibly be aggro. So this connection thing I'm pretty sure is green, as each pair of corresponding characters has the same amount of green connection in them. Health is pretty self-explanatory. And aggro is just a guess that I have, because I have no idea what else it could be. So anybody's guess could count. Then we see an icon to the left of the person's face, each representing the fighting style of the character. Those being defense as a blue shield, attack as a red sword, and a new symbol being a Zephyr, which is represented by the green symbol. A Zephyr is a character who evades enemy attacks while drawing their attention. This information is from Nintendo's official Twitter account. We also notice that each symbol doesn't have to be locked to one person and can most likely be changed, but each character has their designated symbol of combat. Kinda how you can make Rex a healer, but he's best as an attacker. To the right, we see shields, which represent how close you are to your assigned partner. I know this as the circles next to the characters show the shield space, and when you exit that circle, the shield next to your icon disappears, kind of like the connection system in Xenoblade 2. Alright, so the combat itself seems to have heavy inspiration from Xenoblade 2, as it has the 4 arts diamond with a special art in the right corner. What's nice is that next to the art, it says where to strike an enemy from and what effect it casts onto the enemy. All of this is nicely organized as well. Another button we see is the fusion command that works as the ZR button. This is the new style added to spice up the game. I will talk about this later. On top of the diamond UI is an arrow and sometimes a symbol to the right of it. The arrow is showing where the closest enemy is relative to you, and the symbol on the right is what move would work best on them. Now, on the left side of the screen, we see 3 more buttons. The first being interlink, which is what I'm guessing to be how connected you are to your partner. Target lock would be focus in on an enemy, and evade being a dodge. The first time we see a defense move in the series. I'm guessing these will change based on what class of fighter you have to choose. We also see tactics, which will most likely be what style your character wants to be. Also, we welcome back the chain attack, but I'll talk about it more later when we get the chain attack part. We also see how many enemies we are fighting with a symbol on the top right corner, which is nice to have. Oh, last thing that I almost forgot. At the top, we have the UI for the enemy itself, which is pretty self-explanatory, with enemy type, enemy name, enemy level, and enemy health. Now, as you see more of the gameplay, we can see the status effects on characters and enemies. On the enemy's health bar, we'll see this new sort of blue flame, which I'm not too sure what it is, so we're gonna have to wait to see what that represents. This sort of flesh monster here is what I believe to be one of the main enemies for this game. Not this one specifically, but this enemy type is what I mean. He seems to be extremely powerful, so he might be a major boss in the game, but I don't believe he is the main boss of the game. He's kind of like Metal Face in Xenoblade 2.
Here, Monado boy!
Van Damme rising from the dead was a shocker, but maybe we could be wrong. I honestly have no clue how Van Damme could come to be, and for all we know, he could just be like a son or a grandson to Van Damme that looks very similar to him. But anyways, he gives Mio and Noah some insight on their powers, which leads me to believe that he knows something that a lot of others don't. In this sort of mind sequence, we see Noah with his right eye glowing, looking into Mio's memories, and Mio's left eye glowing with Noah's memories. This is what I was implying towards in the beginning with the 2 characters who had glowing opposite eyes. This power connects them together to make themselves into a flesh monster to fight off stronger enemies. And remember that fusion button we saw earlier? Well, now it's gone, so it's safe to say that that's what this fusion means, to transform into this sort of weapon. And Nintendo's Twitter confirmed that it's called Ouroboros. The fusion state is shown at the top left, with Noah and Mio sharing 1 slot in the new bar, which I'm guessing is the cooldown for using this form. Not only do Noah and Mio have this power, but all of them do. This is the reason why we're allowed to have up to 7 characters, because they link together to become stronger and essentially make up only 3 whole attackers. We see them talking about how the power is used, and it's from a strong power or emotion. We know that the power works in pairs. So the pairs that are able to use this fusion together are Noah and Mio, Uni and Tyon, and Lance and Senna. These are the only characters we are confirmed of as far, but from what is shown, it seems that only 1 pair can fuse at a time. Also, the fusion itself can level up, as you can see in the UI of the characters. This scene is very interesting to me, as it shows a younger version of Noah exploring his memories of a possible Earth collision. This could be a memory scene, as we know the characters can visit each other's memories. And Noah is possibly having a flashback, or maybe time is stopped, indicated by the frozen birds. My theory is that this is Xenoblade 1's world colliding with Xenoblade 2's world, in a literal sense. We then see the Queen of Keeps herself. And before I go into this next thing, this might be going into Xenoblade 3 spoiler territory, so if you want to skip this, then I'll put a timestamp to avoid the spoilers. In the Nintendo Japanese trailer version, in the subtitles, this confirms that the Queen of Keeps is actually Melia Antiqua from Xenoblade 1. And from this information alone, it's safe to say that the Queen of Agnes is Nia. What their beef is still unknown. But for my theory, I'm guessing that they're fighting over who gets to control the world, as Xenoblade 1's world has collided with Xenoblade 2's world. But so far, that's the only thing that's been spoiled about Xenoblade 3. I will point this out though, that the Queen of Keeps wants to destroy Ouroboros. So I'm guessing she herself doesn't know what Ouroboros is, because it's a connection, not a physical object or person. We're now introduced to a bunch of new characters again, which we have never seen before, and they might be playable in the future. Now this scene is super sick. It kind of reminds me of Iron Man's tiny robots and how he uses them to put his suit on. It's possible that Noah's arm is a cyborg arm, as for a small window of time, his hand sort of disappears. I don't know if this is intentional. As you can see, for a couple of frames, his sword isn't even connected with his arm properly. So this might just be a mistake. But these little robot things connecting to his arm would make a lot of sense if he's missing an arm. It seems that memories are a heavy theme in this game, along with life. Whoa, okay. Now this scene with the fighting titans reminds me a lot of Xenoblade 1, with the titans fighting each other. And this blue-eyed lady leads me to question if these robots are formed based on how their user is styled. Like she has darker hair and blue eyes, and her robot is black with blue accents. Okay, yep. Here's the comedic relief of the game, the Nopons from earlier. It seems that the two Nopons have to be together and not separate from each other. So that's maybe the one technical exception of 8 characters in a team, because it's 7 characters per party. Oh, also, the Nopons' names are Riku, which is the blue one, and Manana, which is the pink one. In this scene, we see another new character, which confirms that you will be able to get more playable characters the further along you progress through the story. This new character, Xeon, which looks high Entian with Hom's blood. Here, another new character appears, and her name is Valdi. I'm guessing these two characters go together, but Monolith Soft just doesn't want to show their fusion, for spoiler reasons obviously, and it's impossible with odd number of characters. This new chain attack is interesting, because I have no idea what's going on, but I know a lot of damage is being taken, as the tactical guide is being shown. So let's try to break it down. It looks like in the chain attack, you get to use another character's memories, because when using the chain attack, the attacker's outfit changes to another character's style and uses their power. For example, Noah is using Tyon's outfit and power, which are paper birds, and since Noah is already an attacker and doesn't have a special connection to him, Tyon is lending Noah his powers. Again, very interesting system by Monolith Soft. So this seems to be a fate of the world is in your hands type of deal again, as Van Damme is motivating these kids and giving them the hope to defeat the enemy, which is still unclear as to who it is. And we finish with these life spears floating in front of everybody. And we know Noah and Mio are officers of death to guide them possibly to heaven maybe? I'm not 100% too sure what this ritual is meant to accomplish, but it seems like an important one, considering there are people specifically chosen for this sort of ritual. This game has a ton of surprises, and the biggest one being is that it's being released early. Also, a special edition is coming out, so you know I'm gonna have to get that. If you guys want an unboxing, just let me know, because if I can get my hands on one, I definitely will. Well, anyways, that was my in-depth review of the trailer, and some tiny details that you may have missed. Hopefully you enjoyed the video and watched the whole thing, as it took me a very long time to write and to edit. I had a lot of fun making this. Also, my content has been all over the place, so if you guys have any suggestions as to what you want to see in the next video, leave it down in the comments. Thanks, and I'll see you soon, maybe.